Hi, this is the second video to go along with the graphing calculator and exponential functions. I'll be showing you the graphing calculator and Desmos again. So if we can go back to the graphing calculator and go back into y equals, you can just clear whatever you have there, okay? And then you can type something new. So we're going to type negative, okay? And I want to make sure you know what negative is. This is your negative sign, okay? Don't confuse it with your minus sign because that's going to give you an error in your calculator. So you're going to use this anytime you want it to be a negative. So negative x, the variable key, is right here, okay? Now there's two ways to do squared. You can either press the caret and then press a 2, okay? That'll do squared. Or you can go over here and see there's an x squared button because x squared is actually a very common function. So you could press that and it'll automatically square. So we have negative x squared plus 1. That's what we're going to be exploring next. I want to get a graph out of this. So we're going to go to regular window, not second window, regular window. And we have this almost set at a standard window, okay? Just the 5 would need to be changed. So I can go down and I can manually change this to a 10, or remember, you can go to zoom and hit zoom standard. Zoom here. And then number 6 would be zoom standard, and that'll take you straight to a standard window. And then we hit graph. And that graphs the function. Now, there's a lot of white space up here, okay? I might want to narrow in on my picture. This is just like cropping a photo. If I want to decrease that empty space, I would want to lower my Y max. So I'm going to go back into Window, and I'm going to, instead of keeping a Y max of 10, I'm going to change my Y max back to 5. This means this is the lowest x value that the window is going to show. So the number all the way over here, okay, on the left side of the screen is going to be negative 10. The x max means the number all the way over here to the right side of the screen is going to be positive 10. And the x scale, SCL, stands for scale. That's what it's counting by. So every tick mark is going to be worth 1. Okay, so we're counting by ones. And then this is the same thing. The Y min, which is the lowest Y value on the screen, is going to be negative 10. And then the highest Y value on the screen will be 5. And the tick marks will be, again, 1. That's what the SCL means. You don't have to worry about these. Okay, you just have to worry about the top 6. So this is the window we're going to use. I go back to graph. And then it will graph it in that window. So what are some important features that you're going to want to see? You're going to want to make sure you see x-intercepts, y-intercepts, if there are any, okay? You're going to want to see any maxes or mins. In this case, there's a turning point here. So we want to make sure we see that turning point. So we want to make sure that anything that would be of interest to us is visible on the screen. So this would be a pretty good window, okay? And then, as you saw in the previous video, you could go in and you can make it give you values in a table, okay? If you want it to give you a value off the graph, that is also possible. If you want to put in a particular input, just press trace, okay? Not second trace, just trace. And then notice how an ordered pair comes up here. Type in a number. Type in 5. And then hit enter. And it'll tell you what happens when x equals 5. The problem with this is that it has to be in the window, okay? For example, if I try to do x is 15, it gives me an error, okay? Invalid. The reason it says it's invalid is because my window is only going to 10. I can't see 15, okay? So you could do one of two things. Either look for a different input or you have to adjust your window, all right? So there are some restrictions on this, but you can go in and use the graph to find particular ordered pairs that you might be interested in. So this is using the graphing calculator. Now let's move to Desmos. So here we have Desmos again. We're going to go into the first box and we're going to type in y equals. The negative doesn't matter here, so negative x. The caret is still what squares, okay? That's going to be true of pretty much all the software. So x squared. Make sure you're not still typing in the square though, okay? So either type like I just did, like touch the screen, or use the arrow to move out of the screen. So there's an arrow key, okay, on the pad. You can just use the arrows to get out of the exponent, so you're not typing in the exponent anymore. And then we wanted +1, okay? And you can see that the graph did the same thing here. But again, maybe I don't want all of this white space, okay? You can zoom in, okay, just by moving it with your fingers, okay, or with your mouse in Desmos, okay? It's much more interactive than the graphing calculator. Not only can you do that, okay, and also you can drag if you can't find the function, maybe at first, okay, you can drag it until you find it. Or the wrench up in the top corner, so let's touch on that wrench. That will open the window, x-axis and y-axis. It's just like the calculator, min and max. So you can have a minimum value and a maximum value. And then the step is asking you, what do you want to count by? Okay, so it's just like your scale. So you can set this up here and it'll also adjust it on the screen. Okay, so you have all those different options. You can move this around or you can use the tool feature here, okay, the wrench feature, and you can change the window. If you want the calculator to tell you a particular value, or I'm sorry, Desmos to tell you a particular value, all you have to do really is touch on a point and that point will come up. The important points are there, but look, I can touch anywhere and I can see the points that come up on that graph. So it's pretty neat. So being interactive is actually pretty cool. Okay, you can see any of those things. And all the important features that you might want to know, they will be static. They will be shown there. Okay, and you can just click on them. So pretty cool. Okay, so this is how you're going to graph in either the graphing calculator or using Desmos. Okay. So now let's go back and let's change it to an exponential. So y equals 4 parentheses 1.5 raised to the x. Okay. We know this should have been an increasing exponential, and that is what we see here. But we're not seeing everything. So because we're in Desmos, I can just drag and I can go zoom in more or I can zoom out more and I can see a really nice picture, okay, of this function. There are some things you already should have known just by typing this exponential in. 1.5 is the factor that's growing because it's larger than 1. This should have been an increasing exponential, okay? The y-intercept should have been 0, 4, because my a value is 4. Look at what the y-intercept is. The y-intercept is 0, 4, okay? So all these things you should have anticipated. An exponential never actually touches the x-axis, okay? So look at that. It keeps getting closer and closer and closer, but it's never going to cross it. It's never going to touch it, right? So you can explore all the features of your exponential. Now, what if they asked you a particular output value that they wanted you to find? So let's say they gave you this function and they said, find when this function has a height of 12. Well, think about what height means. Height is the vertical direction. So they must be giving me a y value. The only way that I'm going to be able to find a y value is if I graph a separate graph with that value. So I can go in and in Desmos, I can go in and type y equals 12. And now it's going to do it in red here, okay? And it's going to draw in y equals 12. Notice where it put it, okay? That's a height. That's the boundary on the y-axis. That's what I want to see. I'm interested in when this graph reaches that height. When does it reach a height of 12? So now that they're both graphed together, that's a point of interest. On Desmos, it's going to come up automatically. That's pretty neat, okay? I really don't have as much that I need to do in Desmos, okay? So remember, when it asks for a particular height, it's asking you to type in another y value, okay? So y equals, and then you'll give yourself that boundary so you can find the point of interest. Now let's go back to the graphing calculator so I can show you how to use the feature there. We're going to go back into y equals, clear this out, and put in the same function, 4 times 1.5 raised to the x, okay? Because we can't just pinch and drag, we need to set an appropriate window. If you want to start in the standard window, okay, that's fine. So zoom 6 will take you to a standard window. But we know that it's never going to cross the x-axis. It's never going to show us anything down here. So we might want to go back to our window. Once it stops drawing, we might want to go back to our window, and we might want to change the y min to be 0, because I don't need to see any negative numbers, okay? I can remove all that. So now go back to the graph, and I can see what's happening. I see the same picture, okay, that I had in Desmos. Now, if I want to know what happens when y equals 12, so when does it reach a height of 12, right? Same question. First of all, I don't have 12 because I only went up to 10. I'm going to go back to my window and make sure that I can see 12. So maybe I'll go out to 15, okay, a y max of 15. And I have to go into y equals and give myself that height of 12. I need my calculator to draw in that line at 12. So now I go back into the graph, and it's going to graph the exponential. And it's going to graph y equals 12. And now I'm interested in that point, all right? Not as interactive, okay, as Desmos would be, but I can find it. I'm going to go to a trusty menu using second trace. See that calc? It says calc in blue letters. So second trace. This is going to ask me a lot of different things. We're going to use them all, well, at least the first 5 eventually. But I'm interested in finding where they intersect. So I'm going to choose number 5. and I'm going to bring my cursor as close as I can get it to where they intersect. It's asking me first curve question mark. Bring that cursor as close as you can and hit enter. It automatically shifted to the y equals 12 curve, but it didn't move very much. So you can just hit enter. And again, it won't really move very much. It's asking you for a guess. You can just hit enter. When it says intersection, you know you're done. So this is the x value where the height will be 12, okay? And I know Desmos did it a lot quicker, a lot simpler, but you can find any point of interest if you know where to go, okay? So that calculate menu will be very good. If you want to verify that that is the 0.04, I can press trace, not second trace, just trace, and I can type in 0, because I want to know what happens when x is 0, and it'll tell me what that y-intercept was supposed to be. And I can do that for any input that I might want to check, okay? If you want to do an input that's not in your screen, that's not in your window, for example, if I hit trace, and then I want to find what happens when x is 15, and I try to hit enter, it gives me error invalid. And that's because it's not part of your window. So if I go to, it's going to tell me to change that, all right, because it's not in my window. So these, again, just some troubleshooting things in case these things happen. So I can do one of two things here. I can find an x value that is in my window, okay, like maybe 8. Oops, I didn't want 85, I wanted 8. Okay, and then it'll work. Or I could go back and change my window, all right, to contain what I'm looking for. Remember that you still have the option from the first video of making a table of values in either case, on the calculator or on Desmos. But that'll find you any of your input and outputs. So this is how you would graph on either technology and how you would find a certain height on a graph. Okay, so if it asks you what happens at a certain height. Okay, the next video we'll go through a word problem together using the calculator, and then you should be all set using whatever technology you are comfortable with. I'll see you in the next video.